All right, episode 216. Today, we've got the real estate investment master in here. So we're going to talk about the 3-step blueprint. It's very cliche. It's very buzzwordy, but the 3-step blueprint to becoming a real estate investment master. We're going to get started right freaking now.
Really?
Oh, or not?
We can't start until
in a second.
All right, episode 216. Today we have the returning guest, probably the most appearance guest.
She's
Beth
getting up there,
Silverman.
dude. She's up there by KD, Kyle Draper,
I think she's
and
surpassing.
CP, Chauncey Pham. No, it's a tight end NBA players, right? Like Kevin Durant.
I think
Chris
she's
Paul.
definitely surpassed those. This is number 4 on our show.
I don't know.
something like that.
Yeah, I think it's number 4.
I thought it was 3.
Is it 3?
I feel like this is my third time on with you, and I would miss a show.
Sabbatical. So
Yeah,
now,
I think
So
this
this
is
is number 4.
I think it's 4.
Yeah.
I think
Today.
it feels like 3 because the heartbeat of the show wasn't here for all
Oh,
that
yeah,
episode.
yeah.
Why even do
Yeah,
it?
exactly.
Really.
Yeah.
I just sit over here in my corner.
today
Yeah.
matters.
Absolutely. Every day matters, first off.
Apologize to your viewers for being late because I'm never late.
Well, that's okay. We were nailing down these 3 steps because we were
Yeah, maybe you
arguing.
got somebody else's podcast.
we were
and be on
arguing
time.
exactly. We were arguing about how to become this real estate investment master because, we were going to talk about love and how to love yourself, right? And I was like, we're not talking about it. It's Valentine's Day. We're not going to buy into the commercialized stuff going on.
I had a whole song at lunch about errors and omissions.
Yeah,
Love.
you gotta
It was
know.
terrible.
Really-
you have to know your squad here, though. You proposed that to the Grinch.
The best thing about
Wait,
ducking
wait,
the
wait,
love
the
conversation
Grinch.
is the song.
Wait. Hold on.
Hang on. Listen.
That is true.
Hang on.
Oh, look at
Oh
that.
my
I almost
goodness!
wore my
Wait a
boots.
second.
Oh, the Grinch.
He's got good
He's got
socks.
Grinch socks on.
What sort of
Oh my
redneckery is
I
happening
almost
here?
wore my
Boots
boots.
today.
I got the Grinch.
I wore my boots on the plane. I was gonna wear them here, but then I said, "Nah."
We gotta get Jesse's cam.
Yeah.
We don't have
Yeah, Jesse's got his
cam
boots
there. He's
on.
got his
Yep.
boots.
And I wear them with the Grinch
You
socks.
wear Grinch socks. That's hysterical.
Yep. So you said the Grinch.
But do
We
they
didn't
have
even script
holes?
this out.
That's so.
So
You know
but-
who could protect you from Grinch socks? Theron.
Theron Smith, that's right. And giving you that, good job, Beth. You should run the show. Right? Theron Smith over there at Armadillo Home Warranty. He will protect you. He will protect you all the way. He will personally come and shield that house and give you the warranty that you deserve and you need at Armadillo Home Warranty. Armadillo.1/tour.
We recently
TORE.
had Hale
I
in the
think that looks
DFW, and
better.
Theron was just like over houses with like his Captain America vibranium shield protecting the
And
roofs
he'll
from hail
give you a
damage.
T-shirt that you need because I got
We
one.
don't have a t-shirt.
I got
Yeah.
one.
Yeah. So we still don't have a t-shirt. But there is a new slogan that Homeward just released out.
What's that?
If it's green, they'll do anything.
That's
Wow.
the weirdest
That could mean a
saying.
lot
Yeah.
of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was talking to Dana.
Green
And
means
It's
go.
no rhyming,
Yeah.
just nothing. Isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't think it's a saying. It's just a sentence.
she's like, if it's for the grain, she'll do anything.
I feel like there's a period at the end
Oh,
of
I
that.
thought green meant like lawn or
Nope.
back to toy. I
Nope.
was thinking property
to-
management
Yeah,
stuff.
we're talking about money.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Geek.
But Homeward DFW, the best property management company out there in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Just go to homeward@dfw.com. And then you need to go slang some loans over to Mortgage Mike, right? Because, interest rates are doing okay. They're not great, but they're doing okay. Inflation's not helping us right now.
But ask us again tomorrow because yesterday was really bad with the CPI.
Yesterday was
It's gonna come
really,
back
really
down,
bad. But just go to mmgloans.com. Mortgage Mike, he will give you that Mortgage Mike stamp of approval. And just tell him that the crew from Tor sent you.
Sent
So
somebody over to Mortgage Mike yesterday. I had a phone call with him today. Mortgage Mike loves to send audio texts, which not the biggest fan of, but it's fine. Whatever, I'll listen to it.
But the new iPhone update just gives you the script of the audio.
That's what I was going to say. It transcribes it now. So what I did, we were literally at lunch before this. He had sent me one of his audio messages that I don't like. I read the first 2 sentences of it, realized what he was trying to say, called him directly, solved said problem. Closing happening in a couple of weeks. It was perfect. It was
Note
perfect.
to self: only send Kelderman audio text.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh!
exactly.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get $1 million.
Actually, I'm
from
just going to
TV
send
now.
video text messages.
I'm okay with that. At least I can watch
Why?
you doing something.
You know what I love though
Interesting.
is that there's still marginal agents talking about 2-1 buy downs when DeBacker and you guys started talking about that probably a year and a half ago.
That's because they watched the show, but they were
Late to
watching
the
it
party.
real late to the party.
Yeah.
And and then we started talking about the DSCR loans.
You know
That,
who's late to the party? Anyone who's not investing in real estate.
Well, and that's something why we didn't want to talk about
Or going
love.
to tourstudios.com.
Right, tourstudios.com. Actually, I did sit in this chair yesterday, but I was a guest in my own studio for one of these shows that Jesse's producing over at tourstudios.com.
It's like when you play the Super Bowl in your own stadium, but you got to
Yeah.
dress in a different locker room.
Yeah, I still wear the same thing.
I'm going to be in Tour Studios on Friday.
Oh, Beth Silverman will be here Friday with Tour Studios. So tourstudios.com, you want to look like a rock star, superstar. You want to look like that real estate expert. Jesse will make you look good because he makes us look good and we're not that good looking.
Also,
Not
you
at
could
all.
just be you. Like, you don't have to be a rock star. Just come and be authentic. That's the new thing.
But everyone wants to be a rock star.
I don't. I just want to be Beth Silverman.
You know
I'm
who
usually
I'm
self-deprecating in a lot of ways, boys, but I'm going to be honest, I'm pretty fucking good looking.
Yeah. Speaking of good looking, can I say hi to all the wives? Thank you for doing the takeover. I loved watching that. All the wives out there to you guys.
We're going to do that one again, I think.
we're
like,
redoing.
they want to do their own show
you
now.
know, you know
I'm
how
flying.
It's
you
just
know
a
how
show where they
wives-
get to talk shit about their husbands for an hour.
you know how wives are. They talk so much shit that they weren't able to get it all in one episode.
I think
girls,
you guys end around to the process because I'll tell you with Victoria and I stuff like when it's one-on-one, you get to air it all out,
Yeah,
right?
I'm afraid
you just
of
get
that
to air it all
I don't-
out.
Look, I don't
You
want
guys
to be in
did
that
the
hot seat.
deflection. You
Gotta
sat on the
sign
other
an
side of the
NDA.
cameras and
No.
let them just
No.
like coerce and
No,
talk
it's,
about
it's
you.
better
right?
to find out what they say when we listen to the episode.
Right, yeah.
So that's on the More Doors podcast. But enough about that. Beth wanted to talk about love. Today is Valentine's Day. And instead of just talking about love, let's talk about loving building wealth. Right? Let's talk about loving
He's a
getting
master,
more
folks.
cash flow. Let's talk about how what we don't love is how real estate agents, number one, they're not selling houses. 49% of all agents last year sold 0-1 house. So they're not making any money. They're probably not owning a rental or investment property, and they're probably not building cash flow. And we need to talk more about that because we need to, as agents, we got to set up our own retirement plan. We're not getting a 401k. I don't think we are.
No.
Oh, okay.
Maybe an I-401k. But
Maybe
still
NAR can set that up for us.
I heard JG Whitworth has something.
So Beth has a 3-step blueprint, a plan to becoming a real estate investment master, and she's done a really, really great job of really. I mean, how much of your business is helping real estate investors, and then of course now you're helping yourself.
Yeah, real estate investors now is about 90%, but of the 90%, 55% are realtors. I know
That is
you don't know how
amazing.
to say the word.
It's
Nick.
realtors.
Sorry for two syllables. Realtor.
Realtors.
Docator.
If anybody wants me to Venmo them $25, I will give you $25 for
To punch
10
him in the
clips
face?
of Nick saying realtor incorrectly with the itors just for Beth's Instagram
But
hate of Nick.
The other week on the show, you said real estate professionals, and
Yes.
I felt like that was great. That was your effort to thwart your.
Well, I'm also
proper
understanding that NAR is shitting the bed, and not to bring up. I've been told on the other show not to bring up NAR anymore, but I don't think realtors are going to be around anymore.
But P.S. But when people want to talk about NAR and the bad things, when you guys had Chauncey Pham on, one of the biggest things from NAR that I love are these studies they do on the disparity of housing, and as realtors, if you guys aren't reading these studies, you're missing the boat.
Yeah.
Because there's not a lot of people who know that only 6% of realtors are
Look.
Black, and the disparity in loans. And I've been studying this since 2019 because I was blown away by it. So NAR does do some pretty dope stuff.
What was that?
When
That
they're
was-
not shitting the bed.
That was episode 214, I believe, right? So episode 214, and we talked about diversity in real estate, and Chauncey. We'll have Chauncey back on because if you even notice, if you go back and watch that episode, even for how comfortable we all are, it still was a very uncomfortable topic to just you almost are just like now. I'm tiptoeing around.
Well, there were
maybe what
layers.
needs to be
We
said,
talked
right?
about this at lunch, but we talked about this at lunch. There were so many layers, and I love that she's so open and communicative and vulnerable. And there's so many layers, and she and I talk pretty much daily on DMs and about all this stuff. And so investments, when you talk about in the Black and brown community, are that much more important. I say this all the time. I don't want to just jump right in and skip, but if you have to get in the game. And so people just think that they are in the market they're in, and they don't think outside of that. So if you only had 80,000 or 100,000, let's go look at Memphis, Detroit, Baltimore, New Orleans. Let's get in the game where we can afford it and we have a team in place. Like, mitigate the risk, understand your financial barriers, get in the game, because real estate in the long term.
Well, I think are we talking about investing now?
Yes.
Yeah. So while I agree with you, I do think that you should always, number one, if you're going to invest, there are maybe some more affordable areas, but invest in your backyard first. If you know the area, but understand and master in this market, right? Money changes hands when problems are solved. We all know that. And what do we have problems with right now? The problem is that most investment opportunities don't pencil out because the interest rates and the price doesn't work. But I'll have Brian share kind of a story in a moment that he is finding a way to make the math work, utilizing and understanding and studying creative financing. And there are still cash flowing opportunities out there. There are still ways to build wealth. And, when I was doing the other show yesterday with, what do they call that show, Jesse? What's the name of it? The Closing Table, with Tamara Gady. One of the things that we talked about was just investing in real estate and the numbers not working. And, a lot of people want to kind of throw around their net worth. Right. And I will tell you, I won't go into what mine is, but net worth to me doesn't mean shit. To me, it's what the cash flow is, because I can't live off my net worth, right? I can live off my cash flow. And too many people buy investment properties because I think they just want to say they bought something and they want to use it maybe as a bragging tool, or it's an ego thing, and they said they were going to do it. And they're buying it from an appreciation play.
But so depending on what their short and long-term goals are. So it's just like when you meet with a realtor about buying a home and selling a home, when you meet with an investment specialist, it's about your short and long-term goals. We talk about this often. I don't have children, so my long-term wealth is very different from yours. So your net worth and my net worth could be different, but my money goes further because I don't have children. Right.
So your active income goes a lot further, right? So your active disposable income goes a lot further, that you can also go and invest and maybe buy properties that don't hit a certain cash flowing amount right now.
Correct.
For mine, I need to, with having an expensive household, I need to make sure the money that I'm investing has a return, hopefully an immediate return on the cash flow portion of it, so that eventually when I get to the point where I'm like, you know what, I want to slow this down. I'm ready to look at retirement. But I don't want to change my current lifestyle, and hopefully I don't have to. My cash flow my current investment cash flow can pay those bills. So she really rubbing it in that she doesn't have to pay for all those children like us, Nick. That's right, Theron.
Yeah, you didn't have $200,000 of debt from cancer. I win.
Oof. You can't throw that card out there.
Always can.
No, no.
Yep. Doesn't go away.
That's just always hitting the nuke button on any argument.
Yeah, that's a conversation.
Yeah, I don't think you can do that.
I think one of the things I think why people get afraid of investing is because they see investors at scale. And when people want to talk about institutional investors owning all the SFRs, single family residences for rentals, it's bullshit. If you look at the pie chart, institutional investors only own about 1%, and mom and pop investors own about 80% with 1 to 9 doors of SFRs used as rentals. One of the things that I see in my clientele, because they're different, like you guys are just so big scale. Obviously, I look up to you guys, but I am trying to teach like the regular people how you can build wealth. The first time buyers who can't get in because of the interest, the taxes, the insurance. Let me show you how to stay where you are renting, but let me show you how to buy an income property that will pay for itself. Cash flow, maybe a small cash flow. So then that small cash flow offsets your rent. And then it's going to build wealth to the point that in a couple of years, when you're ready to buy a house, we can now leverage.
So let's talk as an agent, right? Because this is the only real estate podcast worth listening to. And hopefully the majority are probably agents listening to this. And number one, in order for them to buy an investment, they need to have an increase in maybe disposable income or finding the right opportunity.
I'll interject. Yes, that makes it easier. What I would say is step number one, what we do well as agents, if we're good real estate agents, is we know how to make deals work, right? Kelderman, one of the best agents at making deals work that I've ever met in my life, right? When it comes to negotiations, how can we get a buyer and a seller to agree on certain things, right? And that is knowing the contracts, understanding how, to make different concessions work, getting lenders involved, things like that. Like getting a yes and a mutual win for a buyer and a seller is an art and a science for real estate agents. That's literally what we're paid to do, by the way. And that is literally where our value diverges between the good ones and the bad ones, right? Most agents don't have that same skill set on the investment side. The first step number one is to learn what does a deal look like?
Correct.
And that can come in many different forms. So like we were just talking about before, a really standard way of knowing whether a deal works as an SFR rental is the 1% rule.
Yep.
Right. Well, that's not going to exist right now.
Yep.
So there are other
unless
ways.
you buy it really cheap, unless you steal it.
Right. And so there are other ways to make deals work, which is if I don't know those other ways, then my buy box is 1%. I'm not getting any deals right now. So I always believe the first step is education, right?
Sure.
If you know how to make a deal work, then you have more opportunities to identify deals. If you can't identify deals, you can't invest. So
Correct.
knowing how to make a deal work is step number one, I think.
But
This
if you
is one-
identify deals for your buyers, like if you know how to identify a house, if your buyer tells you what they want and you know how to look for that, like that's step one, understanding the MLS, the inventory, the prices. I say analyzing a house as an LTR is like the gateway drug to investing. Am I wrong though?
Yeah.
Like, because it's the easiest to mathematically understand.
And by the way, LTR is long-term rental.
Yes.
Right. Like we're using short form on these that maybe a lot of people don't know. Because while they want to invest or they think they know some of these, they don't understand. Like we found this out. Like a lot of people don't know what ARV means.
Yeah, of
after
course.
repair value.
Yeah.
So from that is like Brian's right. Education. And how many times, and Michael Chapman just commented about how Beth just said something. So obviously it was something great.
What did I say?
But Michael Chapman is a great, he's not just a great real estate agent, he's a great investor agent. And how many times have we seen an agent promote a deal that says great investment opportunity and just needs some TLC, but the price does not reflect great investment opportunity.
It's like when the
We'll talk-
MLS
But
listing
hang
says
on, I want you
get
to-
it
I want-
soon, it won't last.
I want
Yes.
you guys to do something though, because I think this is Brian talks about education. He's dead on right? Like that is, if we can say 2 episodes ago that 45% of agents aren't even closing a deal, but then
49.
somehow turn around and shit on agents for not being able to invest in properties. I see the direct correlation of no money means no investment, right? So how does an agent go about even getting into this room and doing this if they're barely above average, right? Because that is a hard thing to do.
Yes.
So-
So this is what I like bank my whole life and career on. So number one, on the education piece, it's if you can't afford it, right? So a lot of realtors are 1099s. So if you can't afford it, we already know there's DSCR, there's creative finance. So there's ways to get in an opportunity. If the opportunity presents itself, the money will come easy.
Yep.
Nick said that to a class I was in 10 years ago, and it always stuck with me. Nick was the first person I ever heard say that. And now you hear it all the time, obviously. But Nick was like, as soon as you find deals, money will show up, right? I'll actually give you a great example, right? So Nick and I were very blessed today. We got an executed LOI on an apartment complex. So yay!
So if you are an accredited investor, we have an opportunity for you.
Yay.
In Garland, Texas, it's 32 units. Just reach out to us and we'd love to talk
What's
to
the
you.
entry fee?
We'll talk offline.
Yeah.
What's the IRR?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we can't talk
Yeah.
about this.
Yep.
Just-
We got to make sure you're a credit investor.
We got to make sure
can't talk about it
we got to
live
make
on
sure
the
the
show right
listeners
now.
are.
Yeah.
You can get in a lot of trouble with the SEC. Anyway, my point was that Nick and I put Nick and I put our own money into our own deals. So I have to save some of my liquidity for that deal. I had another deal come up the other day that I'm negotiating right now. It's just a single family rental. Came off one of my direct mail campaigns. He's owned it for a few years. He owns it outright. And it's not a 1% deal at all. It rents for $2,600 a month. He wants $385 for it, which is pretty much what it's worth. And that's not even close to a 1% deal. And so if you don't know what you're doing, or if you don't have the money to invest, that's just dead in the water. But this is why the education piece is so important, because the first thing that I spoke to him about, since he owns it outright, is if he wants to carry the paper for a few years, make the extra interest, and then I can go get a secondary to even cover the down payment and still cash flow. So the deal would look like this. I'd buy it for $385, 20% down. He could carry the paper at 5% for 5 years, interest only loan. That's about $1,100 a month, right? I could go get a second for the $77,000, which is the 20% down payment. I could even pay 10% on that second because it's a second position and it's a smaller loan. So you're going to want higher interest to give me that small of amount of money. And even after taxes and insurance, I still cash for like $300 on the deal with none of my own money in it. 5 years from now, rental rates should have picked up enough, and the appreciation should be enough that I could refi at probably 75 or 80% LTV, either get all my money out or maybe have to put 5 or 10 grand into it to cover the difference. Now I have about 93,000 in equity in the property, and it'll cash flow much more for me, and both liens are paid off.
Have you shut down yet?
No.
Okay.
Dude,
Because
no.
I
And I
feel
could
like-
give you 10 books that would teach you that. So the education part is first.
And Google.
This is also who I learned from too, though. So like this stuff is very like this is.
So what I find is that like a lot of realtors and regular people are scared of this because they don't understand. Well, we didn't understand anything.
But it's
when
all
we first
numbers.
tried.
It's all numbers, right? So when you understand the number portion and say like, when you go, all right, your owner financing, the seller's owner financing for 5 years. It's a 5-year balloon based on probably a 30-year AM or 20-year AM.
Well, it's IO.
Well, they still have to base it off something.
Well, there's
right?
no amortization if it's interest only. It's interest only with a 5-year
Okay,
balloon.
so you're only doing interest
paying
only.
interest
AM
for
is
5 years.
amortization, IO is interest only.
Interest only.
So I'm only paying him interest for 5 years, and then I'm paying him everything. So
Yes.
it's a 5-year balloon.
So 5-year
interest only.
balloon, and then you take the hard money loan for the down payment of $77,000. You run it the blended average of what the interest rate is. Then you go run your payment numbers on it, and then you run it against what the rental rate's going to be. And then that's where you have either your cash flow or not cash flow.
You know the funniest thing about all of this, the part of this that sticks out the most for somebody who doesn't understand all of it is the fact that like they might look at this and shit on all the work Brian just did for $300 a month. And what they don't hear is that he has no money into it. In 5 years for very like pennies, essentially, he's going to be able to refi this into something else that's great and then take that $93,000 and deploy it into something else that's then going to flip for his family in another 5 years. All they hear is, why would I go through that much work for $300 in a month?
And
then their brain shuts down.
bro,
Yeah.
That's where the shit
would be
breaks.
legitimately step number 4. If there was 3 steps, number 4 would be your velocity of money and your forward momentum. Like how one deal, we talk about like the average lifetime value of a client in real estate, how the average lifetime value of a good client is like 13 deals, right? Like the average lifetime value of one solid deal could be 20 deals.
Can we also understand that we're talking to NFL running backs when we say this? People who have a career lifespan of 2.5 years and have to make all their money in 2.5 years and don't really think about that. And if you don't want to be an NFL running back, if you don't want to be out of the league in 2 years because you blew out your knee, this is the type of shit that helps you understand and be able to stick around long term. It makes you more valuable for your clients.
Well, let's say you
right?
have
And then you do it. And
And
then
then
your
you do
clients
it.
are like, oh,
They
show
do,
me how to
and you
do
do
that.
too.
Yeah.
No, I mean, that's the thing. If you really do want to work with investors, the easiest way to convert them is say, hey, here's my portfolio.
Yeah.
And this
You
is
guys
what
should
I'm
buy
putting my
this.
money in.
Yeah.
So
And if you have 10 of those, you're now making 36 grand a year minimum, right? So you're making $36,000. That honestly, 36,000 is $3 grand a month. That probably pays for your mortgage, right? For most people's mortgages.
Yeah.
And so if you can start eliminating, and we call it, do you want to be, and one of our mentors talks about this, the 100% club. And 100% club is 100% of your daily and monthly obligations to live is covered by your passive income.
So this is my net income. This is 11 months net, 11 months net on my pad split.
On just one?
One.
Just one passive. And we'll
That's
go over that in a
fantastic.
minute. Well, I want to break that down in a second because that's something.
Because that's a huge,
It offsets a
Yeah.
lot of stuff in your life.
So that's huge. And so
Correct.
let's talk about that in a minute. Let's not go because we kind of jumped all over the place from these 3 steps, and I'm kind of lost right now. So I want to wrangle it back in for a second. So we got 3 steps to real estate investment mastery, and I'm a real estate agent, and I want to number one understand this and master it so I can go work with more clients, and I want to also then start looking at deal flow for myself. And what I'm going to go with what you did, Beth. Right. So step number one is
understand
not
your
just
financial limitations.
Yes, that's not it, but that's 1A. Number one is understand the inventory out there.
Correct.
Because what you did very, very well, and if we go back to how you built up you becoming Build Wealth with Beth, is that you did just the Tip Tuesday, right? You did something on Wednesdays, I believe. You sent out properties to your list that was breaking down and potentially analyzing a VRBO to a LTR to short-term, like everything. And when you analyze the numbers and you put this out there to your list in video format, you now become the go-to expert. And you are running numbers and you're doing it consistently for 52 weeks. And what does that do? You now started having clients get on your calendar. They're scheduling consultation calls. When they're scheduling a consultation call with you, you now become the expert. And you're now interviewing them to see if you want to work with them or not. And then you're understanding their finances to say, hey, how much money do you have to invest? And if we find a deal, this is my fee. By the way, I'm going to keep bringing that up because with all the lawsuits, everything happened. We need to also start as a buyer agent representative. We need to start negotiating our own fees and really breaking that down. The minute you know that inventory and what deal is out there is the minute you can command whether it's good for you or good for your investor clientele.
Correct. If you don't have any opportunities, you cannot succeed at this.
Right. Then you can go deeper with what Brian just said and saying, all right, you run across an opportunity that doesn't pencil out, but you know the equity piece is there. So how do we make the math work? And this is where we make magic numbers. And the creative financing piece comes into play. Can we get the seller to carry the note, owner financing? And we just need to play with the interest rate and then propose that to the seller, right? If you're dealing with other real estate agents, they're probably going to be your major roadblock and major obstacle. So one thing that you probably want to start developing is a system to go direct to seller or direct to owner so that you can control that piece. But, a motivated seller, it will be willing to listen to any type of offer that gets it off their plate, that gets money in their hands. And if you can show them, hey, Mr. Seller, in 5 years, I'm going to pay you this. You're actually going to make more money selling it to me versus just selling it outright. Can I show you how that works?
Yeah, I mean, in that deal, this guy would make an extra $67,000 in interest over 5 years.
Dude, who doesn't want to make an extra $67,000?
I dream about being the bank.
Yes.
I'm actually reading the banker's code right now.
Yeah. So from that angle, Brian is going to negotiate this deal. He's going to be in with no money out of his own pocket. He's then going to leverage it out through homewarddfw.com, the best property management company in Dallas-Fort Worth, so that his return on time is infinite, really, right? It's massive.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So, go down your steps of understanding your financial capabilities, like your 3 steps that we were just talking about.
So as the realtor, you need to understand the inventory and the math and the opportunity. Because once you have that, then you have an opportunity to present for people to say yes to. But now you have opportunities. So now how are we qualifying the same way we qualify buyers, right? How do we qualify investors? Understanding financial limitations is step 1. Because I'm not just talking about the financing and creative. Financial limitations of, like, if it's a flip, having a contingency budget, for everything that can go wrong, like expectations, market shifts, it's having the budget in place to carry. Let's say it was an LTR, long-term rental, and our cash flow, which is the money that is net positive after we pay all the operating expenses. Let's say that was a really small amount and the HVAC in that rental went out the first year, which is like a $6,000 expense. That would then put you in the negatives, maybe for a few years, except the property is gaining in equity and leverage.
You get tax write-offs.
Correct. Like, there's people, like, I know you keep focusing on cash flow because that's what you need, but like, there are some people that invest because they need the tax incentives.
Correct.
I have a lot of physician clients, and trust me, they don't need the cash flow. They need the tax breaks.
But eventually they do. Right. So
Because
eventually
they want to retire.
Yes.
Yeah.
Eventually everyone wants to retire. And so we, the biggest thing that I look at is analyze, when you're analyzing your wants and needs from an investment, You want to take your current wants and needs, like, all right, I don't want to pay taxes. That is the biggest, that's the biggest thief of wealth, is paying taxes. I don't want to pay them. And so that should be, all right, that's number one. For high income earners, all right, how do I offset my taxes so that I keep more of that? Right? Does that fit the criteria? But then at the same time, a lot of those investments that offset your taxes, they're longer term. We'll call them midterm holds. We'll call them 5 to 7 years. Maybe if the market's right, you sell in 3, but 5 to 7 years. So from that angle, eventually, maybe let's call it a doctor, like you use that example. They're getting up there in age. They want to start slowing it down, but they've got their money tied up in this investment. They don't want to keep seeing as many patients. They do need to look at it. What is the cash flow or the dividends return off of whatever they're putting their money, $100,000, $250,000. There needs to be some portion of that, unless they're just young, high-income earners that just need to offset taxes. If they're an athlete and they're in their young 20s, assuming they don't get hurt, or they're a young business owner that just hit gold with whatever they're doing with their career, they need to offset taxes right away. Then okay. That could be those could be longer term holds without getting a return, and they're just banking on the offset in taxes, and they're banking on the sale of that asset in 5 to 7 years,
or the 1031 exchange. Like there's all these different forms of leverage. And then I also asked the question, like, how important is personal use as ROI? Because like in the STR, short term rental game, which Airbnb is Airbnb over for most. I would ask people what is.
It's like Brian's on camera looking sad right now.
Listen, we've made a ton of money, and we're actually still making money in that game. Unfortunately, the Florida insurance piece has now gotten a little bit out of hand in 2024.
And just the consumer, like, let's just stop short there. As a consumer who has a choice, I want my Hilton points, right? Like Airbnb, if all things are equal, and I can stay at an Airbnb, unless I'm taking my dogs, give me my Hilton points.
I agree with you. I used to like Airbnb and VRBOs. Give me a good fancy hotel that has room service.
Hotels are back.
And
hotels are back. But in terms of being an investor, one of the things that makes you a successful investor is the level of passivity of an investment. People talk about passive income all the time. Is income really passive? Because that's some bullshit. Okay. So the level of passivity in an investment, and then if you really want to be passive and you put your money in a syndicate or a REIT, that means you don't control it. You don't get to determine when it sells, if shit goes wrong. Well, I'm just saying, like, so the level of passivity, how many hours do you need to spend operating your investment? And so this has become very important to me as well, because any successful investment requires a successful operator.
Correct. Because look, if it's passive for you, it's active for somebody else. And if it's if you're relying on your passive income that's active on somebody else, hopefully that operator doesn't also want to build passive income and they just stop working, right? Or they have a fight or flight in a moment, and they just flight and they don't fight when shit hits the fan. Yeah. So to me, I look at it, there's no such thing as real passive income. I think that, we need to diversify through syndication projects, through our own investments. You need to have a wide variety out there, because, there's people that I know that only do syndications, and they're in 10 of them, and 7 of them, now. If they did it during 2020 or 2021 and they invested a lot, the majority of those aren't doing well right now. But you go ask others, like if you invested in our project last year, with Deep Blue Capital, that one is going amazingly well. So you want to have a good variety in that. And then as an agent yourself, I want to put myself in the best position to win, to make my money go to work. And, the first thing that most people are going to do is that they need to start looking at their lead generation activities as a platform to go find investment properties for themselves. Right? If they do that, maybe that will motivate them to get off their ass to go find a seller who wants to sell their property to them. And if it doesn't work numbers wise, however, whether it's owner finance, whether it's buying it outright, whatever that may be, then you start talking about listing that property and brokering it out for a commission.
Again, I'm like very opposite, and I'm bummed that Kelderman just got up to go to the bathroom because I want him here. Yes, he's coming because I want him here for this part of this conversation. Kelderman, we're about to talk about some equity techs because I feel so differently than you guys do about the way we go after the business. And again, you guys are machines and behemoths. Like I get it. But for me, you guys are like, oh, go after the sellers, go direct to seller. I don't feel that way, y'all. And Kelderman and I had this whole conversation at lunch, equity text. Yeah. It's like a drive-by texting to your former clients where I literally just say to them, I was showing a buyer a house and you pick a comp that's like 1 or 2 blocks away. And these are buyers who you helped buy from like 2015 all the way up to like December of 2021. Mm. And you're like, I just showed a buyer the house that's listed like around the corner from yours. Do you realize you're sitting on like $300,000 of equity? We did good, kids. And then you walk away. Like there's no other text. There's no B part. You don't ask them for anything. And you walk away. And the response rate is insane. The business I've gotten from this is insane. So I'm not going after the sellers. I'm trying to show my regular people how you bought a home that you're going to live in. That's the first investment you make. It's a long-term investment. So I'm just trying to show a different side of how realtors and people can build wealth just because they bought a house.
Yeah. But by the way, that is going after sellers. It's a different form. It's your sphere, right? It's your past client. You're actually going after sellers.
Well, no, I mean, I think what you're saying is like, how do you because you take that equity and then go invest.
No, I understand. I understand that, but it's either they're going to sell it because look, most
like a HELOC or something.
Yeah,
100%. Texas hard to do a good HELOC. You got to
go to credit
union.
union.
Yeah, that one's a tough one. We need to do better on that for sure.
We do. It's like a really untapped thing.
Yes, it's.
I've been tapping into it for like the last year and a half. You guys,
I have business lines of credit that work so much better than a HELOC.
Oh, we should talk about that.
Yeah, it's hard to get. But
thanks for nothing,
Nick. You got to know people. But I will say, like, most people don't actually want to be investors.
I don't want to be an investor.
Yes.
Wait, let's just please talk about this. I and my clients, even though I'm an investment specialist, my clients are not full-time investors. They are physicians. They're realtors. They're regular people that are like my age, the Gen Xers, who either have money in the bank or a relative died and they inherited some money and they just need 1 to 2 plays. Like the average American would be so much better off if they had one additional property. And I know, like, again, I know you think bigger. And so we differ on this whole conversation.
No, we're talking about the average. No, I understand what you're
saying. Correct.
Yes.
Like,
I agree with you.
If the realtors who are out there, if you guys can catch on to my methodology, because I know their shit's advanced. I aspire to be these guys. However, I can show you this is how you increase your life, your business, and you show your friends in your sphere how to do this. And then the business just flows because people start calling you and they're like, yo, I hear you're doing this in this market. Like, how can I get in?
It's helping the because you're right. If an agent could help someone buy, if you were to buy one investment property every 2 years and you started when you were in your early 30s, that would outpace your 401k at your job by about 100 times.
Yeah,
between then and when you're about 60.
And we know this to be true just because we were having a Homeward Property Management before was trying to solve like rentals and occupancy and all that stuff. And the reason part of that matters is because most of our investors they don't hold 25 properties, right? They hold 1, 2, 4, a 4-plex, right? Like it's that type of stuff. And I think that's where the reason I like when Beth brings this conversation is one, it gets dumbed down a little bit to my level, but it also is like, I did this thing with her text today. It was based off a client who I actually had an opportunity to go look at something in the neighborhood. He bought 4 years ago. He's sitting on like double what he paid for the house, right? So like as a real estate agent, I just had a conversation with somebody who had kind of neglected the conversation for it. And he's a cool guy, so he was easy to talk to. But also, like, he started talking about property management, what him and his brother are doing in Destin. So it's not even like, if you're not even hearing this as a real estate agent from the $300 opportunity that Brian's talking about or the long-term wealth thing that Beth's talking about, just this is an opportunity to reconnect with people who you helped make the largest investment of their life, and they might just be appreciative of your knowledge in that department.
The equity texting is the real deal.
It's huge.
I mean,
let's-
yeah. So
let's replay that again, right? So we're 40 minutes in, Jesse. If we mark this so that we can put that out or 41 minutes by the time, so that we send
By
that
the
out
time
in the
Nick gets
email.
done.
Replay that. How does it go out? What are you saying? And I'm going to also ask you a question. What if you don't have past clients?
Ooh, I love
okay, great. So this is where new agents, if they're sitting open houses, they can then do door knocking and pre-open house prep by saying this house is listing, or then we got it under contract for this, and then they're going to do post contract door knocking and farming on foot and saying this is what we sold this for. Like, do you want to make a move? I don't feel like you need to have past business to really deeply understand the inventory and the opportunity.
Imagine if you lived in a neighborhood. Imagine if you lived somewhere. Like, this can literally be anywhere. Okay. Probably in your zip codes, there are homeowners. I don't know of any zip codes that are straight up apartments and renters, right? Imagine if you started in your zip code. You went and looked at everybody who bought a house from January of 2020 to January 20. I'm not even asking you to go back any further than that. Just January of 2020 to January 2022 in your area. And you just had this conversation with them, unsolicited, out of nowhere. Because you know what all of those people have? Equity. Everybody who bought before January of 22 is sitting on cash.
Yeah.
They just are, right? So imagine you just go back to a very short period of time, tell people the really good news. Guess what? You bucked the system. In 3 years, you've made way more money than anybody should reasonably make on their real estate. Would you like to turn that into something else? That's how you do it without ever having any clients.
There you go.
Yeah.
Because if we know 88% or 87 or 85, most real estate agents aren't going to do anything with those clients afterwards. It's just a free pool of people to talk to.
And what does the equity text say again?
So it's like a drive-by. It's like this is a firebomb and then you're out. There is a B part of the sentence. The B part is, if I could show you how to use that equity to buy a property that would pay for itself and pay you a salary, how would that change your life? So that is the B part, which is long, right? I like to just do the drive-by and like then be out, because when I'm just like, yo, you're sitting on a lot of cash.
You want to read me? You want me to read exactly what I sent?
Yeah,
this
read
guy
it.
today?
Yeah, let's
I'll
hear
read
it.
it exactly.
And he did
It's-
not
it's-
follow
it's-
script.
it's-
He went so long. I was like, this
It's
is
3.5
not gonna work.
sentences.
Too
This
long.
is so long. It's 3.5 sentences. Okay. And I always use half because the first sentence is, hey, brother. Right. So it's literally, hey, brother, I was touring a home with a client of mine because they're looking in your area. The home was already under contract, but it's listed at 1.5. And it's not that much different for yours. Great job on your purchase, my man. Right. This is legit. Right. I went through his neighborhood the other day. I know what he paid for his house. This is a lot of money compared to what he paid for his house. I know what his house looks like. This house is also the same square footage, same bedroom count, exact same neighborhood, schools, which matter here, right? Same lot size. It is the exact same thing, maybe a little bit nicer. It's still so much more money than he paid for his house. And that sparked a conversation about a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't even have a call to action on that because I wasn't trying to flip into an investor. I was just like, hey, man, that's super badass. I kind of wish I had done the same thing when you did it, right?
But
Like,
that's the thing.
it
Like,
was so simple.
even without the call to action, I have had people then immediately reach out and they're like, we need you to sell. And I'm like, wait, what? And not because I told them they had equity.
Yeah.
They were like, no, like we actually need to talk to you. Or
Probably
I had
been thinking about it. And that was a validation of the stuff that
and
they've been
I
thinking
wouldn't have
about.
touched them because just like you guys were talking about in last week's show, that realtors get all in their feelings. Like, I didn't reach out to this client for 6 months or 12 months. Who cares if you're
Matt and I
dropping a
talked about
bomb?
this morning.
But if you're dropping a bomb, all I'm coming in to tell you is, yo, you're sitting on a lot of loot. Good job. Peace. You're great.
Yeah.
But this-
Everyone, you guys should try it right now. Just hit up one
Yeah.
client. Just do
I'll have
it.
to look at it in a minute. But
Those
but-
blow offs are great.
Yeah. But
Because Nick's gonna like pick a really big client, and be like
Yeah.
deep blue.
yeah,
exactly.
of course,
Right.
of course. But I will say, like, there's something in Coach Bird, I think, talks about this, that we or maybe it's in Building an Empire. We always have to have some type of call to action. But like, you like to do the drive by, but at the same time, we need to have the reason behind it, right? So 49% of all agents sold 0-1 house. If you send those texts and then you have the call to action, like, oh, by the way, can I show you how we could tap into that equity? Can I show you how you could use your equity to go purchase another property that cash flows or whatever that wording? And I'll go back and listen.
Right, because it's how would it? Because
yeah.
you don't want to say can I? Because
Yes.
it's a yes or no,
Yes.
right? So
Yep.
it's, if I can show you
Yep.
how to use that equity to purchase a property and the first objection is, but I can't afford it. Well, we're not going to use your income. We're going to creative or DSCR that will pay for itself, right? So all the expenses, and then it's going to pay you a salary, right? I don't use the word cash flow with regular people. It's going to pay you a salary. How would that change your life? That's the move.
If you did that every week and every day, you picked 5 people.
It's insane.
Actually, I'm using that one. So 45 minutes in, I'm using that one because I can go back and master the wording on it. Because I'd like to master the words first before I use it. And being able to say, hey, also, I want you to sign up. And if they say yes, because most people are probably going to say yes.
It's wild.
Right. And that's where you build your email list to get on your Mondays with Beth or whatever you called it. You're just the tip Tuesday. Hump day Wednesday, whatever you would do.
And you can use ManyChat. If you're on Instagram, you can use ManyChat. So you can say, hey, if you're interested in this, drop the word, cash flow and then you'll get the DM. And we talked about this today. Yeah. We talked about how you guys are masters of email marketing, because if you are only communicating with your clients on IG, Facebook, LinkedIn, you don't own that. And when you have them in your email database and you're sending out that marketing and you're looking at your open rate, like you guys have mastered that.
What was funny, she said this because friend of the show, Colton Lindsay, was talking about this very same thing. Like he wants to take this conversation outside of the inbox of Facebook Messenger. And then Beth just like unprompted 4 hours later was talking about the exact same thing, like getting this conversation off the platforms and into somebody's messages or text message makes it a lot more real and tangible too.
The way that I hear this, and I wish this was more polished today.
Like
this was all by the way, viewers, all I wanted to do was talk about this.
Beth sent an email 6 days ago that none of us responded.
And so when Nick was like, she wants to talk about love. Loving on past clients, loving on yourself when the business is hard and you feel like you're failing. This is what I wanted to talk about. Let's be clear. And the equity text was going to be the main
Well,
thing.
we did that. We did
it at lunch.
You should have sent us an email on it.
Kelderman.
Maybe something detailed, like exactly what you wanted to talk about.
But more polished in a sense of like the formula, because the way that I hear this is the number one reason with that agents don't invest is they don't feel they're making enough money. They feel they need to get more sales. Yeah. And if they break that formula down, number one, it comes off less salesy, right? And I think that is one of the number one reasons why agents fail out of this business. They don't want to be, they don't want to seem salesy to their sphere. They don't want to hit, hey, Beth, do you happen to know anybody that's thinking about buying or selling? Like that's salesy. That is the most generic thing you can ask for. It's the same thing like, hey, Beth, are you open? Is your mind open to other income streams and other business opportunities? Ugh.
And look, I think that's great. I think that's great at the end of an expired call. It's getting ready to hang up on you.
Sure.
Right? Like chuck it in their face. See what happens.
Yeah. Look, there's always the asterisk.
Yeah.
Right. But when you're talking about hitting up your past clients, you're talking about hitting up your friends, your family, you can go run comps.
You know where your friends live. Like you've been to their houses. And you can be like, yo, you bought this 4 years ago. Do you understand what you're sitting on? And I can show you how to leverage and build something. You got 3 kids. You got to send to college. You just bitched to me for an hour about how expensive cheerleading or baseball touring is. Like, I don't even get that stuff.
Yeah.
I could show you how to get cash flow for another house that will pay for all of that.
That's how you get your friends to work with you.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's how you get your friends to start sending you referrals.
And when you start at that level, then you grow to your level, which takes time on task.
Well, but I don't recommend someone coming to our level unless they have.
It's pretty scary.
Yeah. I would say I don't recommend it for anyone unless they have the I don't even know.
Unless it's all you want to do.
Yes, it's a whole different ball game, and it's not what it's all cracked up to be. Number one,
no.
What I would say is make a goal. Just make it simple. Make a goal. Buy 1 to 2 houses a year, and if you're lead generation correctly, then that's all you need. And we're talking about the average person, right? We're not talking about becoming the billionaires, right? The average person needs to supplement their retirement income. Mm-hmm. If they own 10, 15, 20 houses, Ben Kenny talks about this as well. They own 10, 15, 20 houses that eventually get paid off. I was just talking to a client of Homeward Property Management on the way to our Homeward meeting, homewarddfw.com, shameless plug. But, we were talking about he owns like 48 or 50 properties. Some of them are paid off. His deal is that he lives off the rental income. And he's kind of complaining about it. And I said, if you could go and start wholesaling and flipping again and get that income up enough, I said, get with some nerds that can analyze your payoff amount of all your properties, take the cash flow you're making and snowball it to pay off your properties. And the minute you start doing that, you'll have all those paid off in a lot shorter period of time. Now you're sitting on 48, 52 properties that are all paid off. Now you're making your net cash flow. You're probably retaining 36, 40% after repairs, vacancies, and everything. Now you're probably making $500,000 a year just on that.
But can I also say, like, that sounds like a nightmare, right? Like that does. Like, let's be super honest. For most people, who don't even own their fucking refrigerator. Like,
wait, they don't
we're talking about owning 42 to 50
This is why I
properties.
love
Like,
you, because I feel like they're so disconnected.
No,
from
they're
regular
not disconnected.
people.
This is super doable. Like at any kind of like real discipline, right? Like what we're actually talking about is like discipline and like desire for this. Here's the reality. It's not that you don't want to manage 45 properties. Most of you just don't want that this much, right? Like you just don't care about it that much.
Yeah.
The really cool thing that you can do in this, yes, could you go invest in properties? And I want that top 20% who hear this to go and run with what Nick and Brian are saying. What I really hope people take from this is that there are conversations in your life that are a lot easier, that help other people win, that ultimately help you win in your way.
Sure.
Whatever that is, right? Because like people kind of know this in our personal world, but some of the stuff that Nick and Brian do, I'm not a part. Everybody thinks I think that all three of us are a part of everything together, and we're not, right? I'm not a part of that. And it's not because these dudes don't want me to be part of it. My finances are different. Like, I would rather buy a double wide and live on 2 acres in the middle of nowhere than do whatever the fuck these guys are doing, right? Because
Heather won't let me do that.
It just sounds exhausting. But what you can do is you can get to your double wide in the middle of nowhere by helping people do what Brian and Nick are talking about. This doesn't have to be your end game goal for you to still help people and you and your family to benefit from it. I think that's the coolest thing as a real estate agent. You can play this both ways.
That is the coolest thing. And like to meet in the middle as well. Sure, maybe 48 or 50 properties is really overwhelming. I would venture to guess that no one in here knows a real estate agent, or very few, that when you ask them like, hey, are you also interested in also investing in your own real estate? 99% of real estate agents want to invest in real estate as well. And so that kind of happy medium, I will say, is like, yeah, if you're not going to go and start a multifamily syndication business and dedicate your whole life and every ounce of your heart and soul to it, try to find a way to buy 1 or 2 houses a year. Because I promise you, over the course of 10 years, you're going to be really happy you did. And I think the thing that the trap that we fall into is we're not really realistic about what we want to accomplish and then what we can accomplish at any time. We have this, we do this with goal setting for our real estate businesses. We sell 5 houses a year, and then we get to October, and we're like, well, I'm going to put 50 as my business plan next year. You're like, well, what are you fucking doing? Right?
No, you got a 10X.
Yeah, you got 10X. It's like, we're probably not going to, right?
Yeah.
And so we're like, we have these investing goals where we're like, I just want like $50 million in net worth. And we're like, if we can't figure out how to do that in a couple of years, we just like don't do anything.
Yep.
You know? And I would just tell you from personal experience, and we feel like we have to repeat this often enough so you guys remember this shit. He's a pizza boy. We're fucking bartenders, right? It seems really scary to do anything until you do it. I will tell you, the first $190,000 investment property you buy, by the time you sign the LOI for your first $4 million deal, it feels about the same. It's gonna be fucking scary the first time, and the world doesn't fall apart.
It doesn't fall apart, but also it's a little bit scary, like every time, just because you see the money draining from your bank account. So just like every time,
based on your own future ideas.
But what is the money doing in the bank?
Yes.
Besides, you're just looking at it. It's like a farce that we tell ourselves. So I just want you to know, like, no matter if it's a smaller investment, I invested in prop tech, which was scary because for me, real estate, there's a return and I understand it.
Yeah.
And there's an immediate return and a long-term return and a tax incentive.
Yeah.
And so when I invested a lot of money in prop tech, that was scary as shit because I'm just on a hope and a prayer. And I called one of my very wealthy friends. I was like, please, like, you got to talk me through this. And he was like, listen, the worst that happens is this goes under and then you're going to write off a portion of it. And he's like, you make enough to afford this investment.
I can't remember what book that was. Maybe it was a Brett Tanner thing. It's like one of the people's biggest issues and inhibiting factors of building wealth is they have the desire to visit their money too often.
Yeah,
Correct.
Like you never want to invest. You want to look at it in your bank and go,
visit,
it's there.
I visit my bank account
Right.
for the house. I visit what it's worth. So what's wild is like as a real estate investor, especially in the residential space, I don't want to speed up my life, y'all. I'm my mid 40s. This is the greatest time ever. I want to press pause, but I want to speed up the playbook on my real estate investments just because I want to see my projections. And I'm watching the money grow.
Brian and I talk about this. It's like we buy these deals
that are
5-year plays, and I want to get to the 5 year, but I don't want to be 5 years older.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Same. So it's wild. Like you just, it's a long-term play and 5 years is so short in the span of our lives.
Yes.
But when we're sitting here, like, I want to know tomorrow.
Yeah.
And also I believe there's part of our ego to it. It's like, was I right? Did
Yeah.
I call it right?
You want to know that it worked
Of
out.
course.
Yeah. You're going to be 5 years older regardless, though. And that's the thing that people got to keep in mind.
I just want to be a lot richer.
Investing is a long-term game, but Nick's not wrong. You will build the cash flow over time. Just get started. Do something.
Yeah.
Do
Yes,
something.
buy a house. And so like when I look at millennials and Gen Z and you read the stats and they want to rent, I don't care if you fucking say a renter forever. Buy a property. And this is why, again, we disagree. I believe the best investments are not in your backyard because I grew up in New York. And so I inherited money and I went into the stock market because I didn't understand real estate investing was even opportunity. So I do believe that, but in risk mitigation, having the right team, I have 2 recent flippers. They're New Yorkers. They flipped in Florida. They had no business doing it. Both of them had GCs who screwed them, stop work orders, daily fines, took 1 year overtime. One I'm going to get out on top. One even I couldn't save.
Yep.
And he lost $350,000.
Yikes.
So
I hear that. And I think if you're a rookie, you're first, put in your backyard if you can. If you're a New Yorker, I get it. Then you go outside. But for the majority of people, they can probably go in their own backyards and be able to manage it properly or better, or at least have eyes on it. And that's something that even in the storage businesses, when we look at buying storages, one of the key components is the boots on the ground piece.
mm-hmm.
And because Brian and I send deals back and forth to our other business partner Matt Wachowski, and it's like, if we don't have a boots on the ground, we're not driving or flying to South Carolina, Alabama. If we can't get there with an hour or two, then it doesn't make sense.
The reality is just time efficiency, right?
Yes.
Like there's a million deals on any given day to like look at, and you have to start with the ones that you have the base level knowledge of, just from a time efficiency standpoint.
Or
I think
the
if you're
right
planning,
team.
I think if you're planning on it, that's exactly what I say. If you're planning on going outside of your area, having the right people is exactly what makes it necessary.
And you don't know what the right team looks like until you're kind of in it.
I mean, welcome
right?
to life.
Yes,
Like,
I-
welcome
that's
to
everything.
life,
I get
bro.
it.
Like, you don't
Like,
understand how bad
yeah.
you're getting effed
Sure.
until like you're in it.
Because
know?
you ask for referrals, like you ask for a real estate specialist, investment specialist in that area, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I do that," and you kind of vet them, and if they're really good at sales, they're so good at fluffing you up to where you're like, "Oh, I'm going to hire this one. Knows what the fuck they're talking
You can
about."
flip it the other
Then
way,
you-
though.
yeah, sure.
I'm debating with an investor right now who I've sold a house for before, who's contemplating listing them with somebody else because they're going to do it cheaper. And I'm like, what in the fuck are we talking about?
That's
you know
just
what I mean?
value
Like,
prop.
and it is. And like the conversation went well, and we're going to figure it out. But at the end of the day, like this happens on both sides.
Sure,
You can do
yeah.
everything great for somebody,
Sure,
and
but
they're
when
still
it's-
looking for the
when
better
it's my
deal.
money.
For
Yeah.
me, the position for me is it's the one-stop shop. Like, so I don't really care who you are, but you're not finding another realtor who has the GC, the property manager, the stage photographer, like every piece of the operation equation, so that you really can be as passive as possible.
But there's not many agents like you, Beth.
But I
right?
built a whole niche around it.
Correct. And there's not many that actually do this at a high level. We know a few. Like if you go into Nicole Espinoza, the short sale queen, she has built
that's a
her
good niche.
entire business and around the niche of short sales and understands that and started investing in it, right? There's very few of those real estate experts out there that do that at a high level, because what do? What do most real estate agents do?
Nothing.
They generalize, and they're like, you know what? Yeah, they don't do anything, but they're like, oh, I'm an expert in that. I'm an expert in first-time home buyers. I'm an expert in military. I've never been in the military, but I'm an expert in helping military people. I'm an expert in luxury. I'm an expert in lake properties. Know nothing about the lake. Never been to that damn lake, so I don't know if it's good or not. But they always say they're the expert in that.
So then I think the lead magnet for realtors, we talked about lead magnets today. The lead magnet for realtors is, let me give you the top 5 questions the public should ask to find a specialist in XYZ, military specialist, lake specialist. So then the lead magnet for us is, get in my DMs with ManyChat, comment the word lake specialist, and I'm going to give you the top 5 questions to ask a specialist in your area. And then you obviously, right. So like there's so many ways to capitalize on all of this, but at the end of the day, like I had all this debt when I started helping people invest. So for me, it was in my mind, it was like, I couldn't do it. So I sure as shit I was going to help my friends. And then the more commission I sold, the more I paid off my debt. And then I got in the game. I just don't want realtors to feel like if they don't have a portfolio, they can't be great at it. You can be great if you understand the inventory, the math, and the opportunity. You can be great if you immerse yourself in being great. Just the thing that sets me apart from the 87% of realtors who failed in their first year is I didn't quit.
Yeah.
Right. I just kept getting up. Yeah. That's it. There's not rocket science. It's just math. And by the way, I sucked at math. Right. Google taught me everything I needed to learn.
Well, once you study it enough, the math doesn't change.
No,
right. You're running in very small. You're not running. You're not running anything massive. This isn't brain surgery and anything else.
And then when you get good at it, it becomes so exciting because then you're like creative deals. Then like I remember like a year or two ago, I would call Nick. I'd be like, man, underwriting. Like that was I was just trying to like learn more. And when you get really great at, so just do the things that you suck at until it doesn't suck. And then you get so good, you're like high level masterminding and you're like, hey, what do you have to show me?
Yeah. When you start to get more light bulb moments too, like when you start to actually be able to, like we were talking about the education piece before, when you start to be able to feel or learn more about how deals can work and things like that, like the tediousness of going through deal flow and stuff over and over and over, it becomes less boring because you get more light bulb moments and you start to go, oh, that's a deal, right? Like that happens more often. When you're not that educated, the investment game can be very boring because it feels like everything feels so overwhelming that it's just boring to go through deals all the time because it doesn't feel like anything works.
It's like a puzzle.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, that and that's where you get with buildwealthwithbeth.com, right? Mm-hmm. Buildwealthwithbeth.com. And just understand that you can actually make numbers work utilizing maybe a pad split model, which is a whole different. I was talking to the host of her show yesterday, and she's like, well, that, is that going to work? I've heard you talk about it. I said, yes, it works. There's people using this at a very high level. There's ways to make the numbers work. You're a problem solver. Solve the problem. The money will be there, right? And it will go into your pocket. So let's help you increase your disposable income so that you then feel comfortable and confident enough to start investing in your own projects. Because that's what it took Beth a while. You bought your first investment, really your first one last year, and you just showed us your account almost $20,000
in net
in 11 months.
Yeah,
I mean,
off a $93,000 total investment, and that's with the rehab,
what kind
everything.
Of cash was that, Brian?
20.22. Yeah.
I'm putting Brian on the spot. He likes to. He runs those numbers. Yeah. I like that.
And the more you run the numbers, the more exciting it gets. Like, and I long form, and then it translates to your regular buyer business because you teach your buyers Google Mortgage Calculator. Like, it translates to all aspects of your business. It's exciting. It's fun. It's not going to feel that way in the beginning. You just got to stick with it, and one day you'll be like these guys.
Maybe, or just buy one property a year. That's it.
Even if you could only buy one every 5 years.
Yeah. Make it simple.
Yeah.
Make it simple. And then decide you want to make it complicated like ours. And if you do, or maybe you don't, and you've got money to invest, deepbluere.com. We're going to do another shameless plug because we just locked up a property in Garland, Texas, 32 units. It's a great smoking deal. And you as a real estate agent, you need to have some tax write-offs because you guys are paying taxes.
Yes.
Or you're not, and then they're going to come after you. So get some write-offs, invest. That way you can talk about it and you can brag about it. And it's going to be a good one. So deepbluere.com. It's a 32 unit in Garland, Texas. Just get with Brian or myself. We can talk more about that. And then go back and listen to this episode. Look at the equity text. Steal that from Beth, and then go to buildwealthwithbeth.com. Look at her pad split certification. We want to talk about education. We're going to work this referral fee, maybe an affiliate out with her one of these days, because this show is all about making money now.
Who isn't? It's the time of making money.
Yeah.
So then we can be the bank.
I have an amazing idea of what we're going to do with Tor and how this is going to be built out. I planned this out in the shower this morning. I need to put a camera in there because all those best deals come from the shower.
How about just like a microphone?
Yeah, Mike would be good.
Yeah, we're going to go OnlyFans shower for real estate ideas.
I would sign up.
Yeah.
But Heather, not
Yeah.
for the shower part,
For the real estate
for
ideas.
the mindset
Yes,
part.
Yes. And then, but you need the financing on it. You need to go to Mortgage Mike. So mmgloans.com, Mortgage Mike giving you that Mortgage Mike stamp of approval. Ask him to show you his rate and he'll show it to you. He will show you that rate all day long. Mortgage Mike, mmgloans.com. And then, get with Theron. Theron will either pick you up in a school bus, send you a t-shirt. He'll do something.
He'll serenade you on his acoustic guitar.
Yeah.
Can you please keep doing equity text though and report back?
I'm
to me?
I'm having fun with this.
But back to Theron with Armadillo home warranty.
I got the shirt. Yeah.
Armadillo home warranties. Armadillo.1/Tor TOR.
How the hell does she have a shirt?
I got it like 5 episodes ago. You were
Yeah.
on sabbatical.
I'm literally there. I swear to God, bro.
Yeah.
He
Get me
delivered it to my
damn
hotel.
Yep.
Shirt.
We might get
Be
with
like VIP
we might
service.
get with that Lizard in the home warranty.
Lizard home warranty.
Yeah, Lizard home warranty.
Yeah,
It's coming out. If we don't get a
It's coming
shirt,
out.
then
Lizard home warranty will be a chameleon.
I haven't
for
seen a
whatever you need.
debacker
Yeah.
video in a minute. What? I
do you
haven't
mean?
seen Mortgage Mike.
on the show?
His
I-
reels.
I just did I
He's
fall off
too
your
busy
follow
on
list?
Twitch, murking people on COD.
He's
Yeah.
on Twitch now.
No, he's not.
No,
but
not
he
really,
needs
but
to.
he should
Call of
be.
Duty.
We talked about
Yeah.
that, doing a Twitch real estate Call of Duty.
Yeah, we are going
Tor
to.
Studios has to shut down for the day.
Yeah, Tor
we went
Studios.
over payroll.
TorStudios.com, as well as Dana Wynn, best residential, not residential. She's doing
Property
everything.
management.
She's doing everything, not just residential. She's doing
Yeah.
We
commercial.
talk about
commercial building
operators.
now. Yeah.
You need to let somebody
Yeah.
who's
Dana-
professional operate.
Dana freaking Wynn.
Dana and Duncan
For the green, she'll do anything.
are handling
Homeward.dfw.com.
400. Guys,
Next time we're talking about
400.
love. Just saying.
Homeward Property Management.
Yeah.
Super stoked.
Very
Thank you, agents.
Thanks, Tor Studios.
Thanks,
I'll see
Beth.
you on
Agent
Friday.
referrals is no joke.
Thank you, Beth.
It's been cool to see.
Beth is here
Yeah.
until Friday.
But it's
We're hanging out with
cool.
Beth on Friday, it sounds like.
That's TorStudios.com.
Oh, the girls are.
TORE.
Well, apparently
Studio.
I'm girls.
All right. Get us out of here.
Yeah, bye. Damn it. Jesse's always so
Thanks for watching the show today. Make sure if you're watching this on Facebook, you head over to our group, the only real estate group we're being a part of, so you can watch the extended conversation. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And if you listen on the Apple Podcast, leave us a review. We'd really like it. So just do it. Do it. Do that over there. Go to this one. Then go to that one. Thanks.